Welcome back to the Daily Rundown with me, Cal Doughty, and my guests Stephen Durrant and Madie Howard. A rail firm is testing an Uber-style app for train fares. A rail network wants to pilot a ticketing system that scans people's phones to detect when they get on and off of a train. Each journey fare is calculated and then deducted from the user's bank account. The test is scheduled for 2017, and the technology could be available nationwide by 2018. But one analyst claims that tech would result in only a modest improvement in convenience for passengers. What do we think? Is this the future for rail travel?
I don't know if they are doing it for the convenience of passengers per se.
Right.
I think that will be the official reason, but then there'll be other reasons underneath that. And really, realistically, if money comes out of your bank account, still to this day, you almost think of it as not real money.
Right.
You know, you don't notice it. You think, oh, I'll pay on my card, and I'll never look at how much I've got left in my account. I do not want to do that. I'll ignore it. Most people I know do that. So it will increase the number of train journeys that you take, because you'll just hop off and on more frequently. You will check in the first instance, but you'll get used to it.
Yeah.
You'll get used to just boarding on and off and then working out the monetary part for you.
Sure.
And psychologically, it's almost as if you're getting a free ride, you know, which is obviously ridiculous, but at a base level, it will appear like that. I don't really like the idea of it, personally, just a personal opinion. I have this ridiculously sentimental side where I just like train tickets and I do stupidly hoard them in my pocket or just on my table. I just keep them around, just think they look nice. I just want a paper ticket, because they started bringing in the option of an e-ticket recently. Have you seen that? Do you get on trains a lot?
And yeah, I'm old school as well.
Yeah.
I pay with paper stuff and, you know, get card stuff in return.
Talk to people.
It's far out, isn't it?
It is. But I like it. I like the interaction. Yeah. I don't want those things to go away. And also, some people are lonely, aren't they? And they enjoy like just meeting strangers, just having a nice, pleasant conversation. It could make your day. You know, you don't want everything to be so digitalised, if that's a word.
I won't be using it.
You won't be using it?
I won't be using it, but it seems inevitable. I was brought up on the abacus and stuff like that, you know, and telegraphs and stuff, but chalk on slate. I'm quite old-fashioned. I like spending cash on things, and my concern when I see a story like that is, how many people are they planning to lay off? That's what it's about.
Right, okay.
They introduced at my local sort of main railway station, I think last week, they introduced a lot more automatic ticket barriers, and when it was announced on Twitter and via the local news and all the rest of it, it was presented in quite a how modern and marvellous and groovy and all this kind of stuff. Nothing particularly remarkable about it, but the spin was positive, and you've got to think, how many people are they hoping to make redundant through that? That's what it's about. Of course, that's what it's about.
With robots sort of taking over a lot of jobs around the world anyway.
And we get to feel like we're the ones in control, as with the famous, you know, supermarket situation and all that kind of. You're working for them for nothing while they get to lay someone off.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right.
Of course.
It's like the myth of the individual. Everything's more personal to you, and we're doing this for your convenience, even though really, you know, how that's not how it works. And also, I think it will actually inconvenience people, because maybe you're not always the one paying for your ticket. Maybe you know, you've borrowed money. Maybe your parents are paying for your journey, no matter how old you are. You know, so if they're looking at your bank account and you've given them your bank details, what you might have to do is give other bank details to them. Money might go missing from those accounts.
The more we do, the more things we sign up to, the more opportunity there is for fraudulent usage thereof, which is a nasty thing to have to think of people, but I've been a victim of it. Yep. Fortunately, you know, my bank paid up when I said this is bogus or whatever. It was several £100. And this happens to an increasing amount of people, and the more exchanges we get involved with and the more things we fill out online, it's obvious that there's going to be more exploitation of that. The amount of violent crime and so forth is actually going down. It's being replaced by internet-based crime and identity theft-based crime, and all this kind of stuff just feeds into it. I sound old-fashioned, but I think it's true. Yeah.
You're right, actually, and it's a bit of a diversion, but Apple email scams have been happening, and I've been receiving them. And
what do they ask on?
Well, it's related because it's about your account details. Yeah. So they pretend to have them already, so that you click to cancel it or change it. In the protest, you confirm your details, and then that's how people phish them and steal them and use them, and you become another victim of fraudulent cyber uses. Yeah. But that could also happen if you have to give it to the rail companies, and it's just increasing that opportunity for that to happen.
And there's big data as well. They're monitoring where, arguably, if you're paranoid enough, which I can be, this whole thing of they can monitor where you go in and what you know what I mean. There's that whole angle on it as well, which has been building.
They're seeing every scan, every moment, every time you get on or off a train. They know exactly what you're doing when you're doing it.
Just in case you're a terrorist. We're all terrorists.
Yeah, that's always the reason given.
And if you don't like it, then you want people to die in terrorism, and it's your fault.
Right.
Which is awful, you monster.
Yep.
Yeah.
Or there's the, if you've got nothing to hide, you've got nothing to fear.
Yeah, that's right. Give us your bank details.
I mean,
got nothing to hide.
Initially you said that you won't be using it, but one day you'll have to, because they'll introduce it as voluntary, and then eventually it will not be an option anymore.
That's exactly what happened with the supermarket.
And with Oyster cards, I was just thinking, in London, used to be 10 years ago, you could pay via Oyster, or you could, if you didn't have it on you could pay with money. And then a few years ago, you couldn't pay with money anymore. So it was midnight, I went to get on a bus on my own, dark streets, and I wanted to pay with money and he wouldn't let me, so I couldn't get on the bus.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's shocking.
Yeah, it's terrible.
So what did you do in that scenario?
I was just around a group of strange men I didn't know, just like, this will be fine.
Right.
I can't remember how I solved the issue. I don't remember. I might have got someone to pick me up.
There must be a way, the London Mayor or the Assembly must dream up a way of getting around that situation. It's disgusting. I wasn't aware of that kind of thing happening. That's disgusting.
But I suppose the idea is that with this sort of system, because it's on your phone, you're scanning it in and out, it will alleviate that sort of problem. You don't have to have money on you to get the train, you don't have to queue up, you don't have to worry for all these things to be open. You could just get on the train, scan your phone and get off. There's no rushing for the trains because you haven't got your tickets yet. But
the cashless society is sold on that kind of convenience, but there's always other things that feed into it. So, for example, it's convenient to go through the shopping till yourself, and actually it takes a lot longer. Please go to the fast lanes where service is much quicker. You're doing the service and it's not much quicker.
Right.
There will be a consequential. I was going to use a swear word there, but what's the word?
Please don't.
Things will go wrong.
Yes.
As a consequence of this, there's plenty of scope for it. I know I sound old-fashioned, and it will happen, and it is inevitable, and it's just an incremental part of the sort of takeover of technology. Technology is marvellous in a lot of ways, but there's a lot to be said for human interaction and us doing things and being in command, and us paying for things with old bits of paper with the picture of a queen on it and all that kind of stuff,
Yes. Okay. Well, there's a trial run in 2017, and then we'll see if you'll be forced to do it in 2018.
See how many people they lay off.
Our next story. The decision not to prosecute Sir Cliff Richard over claims of historical sex offences is being reviewed following a challenge by one of his accusers. An application was made under the Victims' Right to Review scheme. The singer was never arrested or charged over the assault allegations made by 4 men dating between 1958 and 1983, but he does strongly deny it. The case was dropped in June on the grounds of insufficient evidence. Sir Cliff was the subject of a long-running South Yorkshire police investigation which began in 2014. 2 years later, the official said that he would face no further action. Do we think South Yorkshire Police's history of heavy-handed raid on his home in 2014 has put the investigation back at all?
I don't know if the weirdness of that raid has anything to do with it. Mind you, South Yorkshire Police and weirdness definitely go hand in hand. Hillsborough and Orgreave, etc., and Jimmy Savile as well, but that's unconnected to this. I have a lot of opinions on this whole child sex abuse thing, but the strongest one relates to the fact that it's very difficult for people to pull it apart in our heads. It's very, not just traumatic, but difficult for fair-minded people to adjudicate, and here's why. I don't think we should get into the specifics of an accused individual.
Not at all.
Right? And not that it matters, well, it matters to the victims, but whether this person or that person or the other person, we can speculate all day long, and it's probably pretty dangerous to do so. Here's the problem. We are culturally told, quite rightly, that we should always believe the victim in such a case. Fair enough. We are also culturally told, quite rightly, that the accused is innocent till proven guilty. Those two things are direct contradictions of one another, aren't they? and we can't pull them apart in our heads. We believe the victim and we believe the accused is innocent. That's a cognitive dissonance. And that, I think, is why it boils our heads. I call it Schrödinger's pedo, which is a bit tacky, but you know what I mean?
I suppose with believing the victim, it basically just means or boils down to giving them a right to make these accusations or a right to even be heard properly about it, rather than necessarily saying that the person they're accusing is definitely in the wrong.
Well, certainly... So, have you got...
Yeah, I was going to say that what I think happens, or what I've experienced, is people more often than not actually defend the accused, and they say, and they say innocent till proven guilty, and that, you know, and they come up with reasons basically as to why they didn't do it. That is what I hear, and on this case as well, I did. I said that in the majority of cases, the accuser is not lying, which is true. It's something that I've looked into. The statistics are there and the experiences are there. And also, I don't believe that the law is in favour of those accusing either, especially when it comes to abuse allegations. The history is just there for them to not settle that fairly in terms of who's accusing. So I think that what happens more often than not is that people don't look at it in a balanced way. It would be nice if they did, but I don't think that happens.
Do you think it's possible to look at things in a balanced way with something like this?
I think that obviously you're not there, and what you have to do is be as reasonable as you can. Think, well, if more than one person is accusing somebody of something like this or anything, then obviously the chances are maybe they did do it, or you just think, I'll wait for it to be settled. And that you can't really defend somebody just because you like them, you know, just because your nan's a fan or you're a fan, or, you know, but you can think that the televising a raid on his home is an invasion of privacy. That is something that I will say. That if he wasn't famous, there's no way that we would know about this, and it's just for the sake of sensationalism and for tabloids and for the media to pick up on it and not report on other things.
If you were conspiratorial, you could say that raid could be set up in order to discredit the case. If you could flip it around,
yes,
of course
exactly.
you could. Now, I'm not saying that is the case, but there's so many smoke and mirrors and squillion ways of looking at this.
So I suppose you could say that with this sort of like raid going on televised, people are going to be talking about more what happened, what went wrong here, rather than the actual case itself.
Well, of course.
Yeah.
You know. And again, you know, to underline, I'm not comfortable talking about individuals, but you can see throughout this whole saga, since the whole Savile brought it into the light, so to speak, there are patterns, and you don't have to talk about individuals. A very common pattern is low-ranking police officers being told something, starting to look into it, and then someone upstairs tells them not to.
Right. And
this is what happened in South Yorkshire with Hillsborough as well. Rank and file police officers did their work diligently, made their witness statements, and people upstairs told them to shut up and actually changed basically perverted the course of justice. This is nothing new or slanderous I'm saying here. This was uncovered by the Bishop of Liverpool. Okay, now I've gone off on a tangent there, but that theme, that pattern, that motif of people having their investigation stamped on is common across the board. And this child sex abuse inquiry, they are now looking for their 4th chair in 12 months. This is what I call Operation Long Grass, okay? Chilcot, they managed to string that out for 10 years. Brilliant. That's the kind of benchmark now.
Right.
How long can we just keep kicking the can down the road on this? They haven't even got a chair after a year. Do you know what I mean? And I've watched their website move along at a glacial speed, you know. They're being as slow as they can, in my opinion.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah, I don't think you're particularly outlandish to say that at all. I think it's entirely justified. And also, he's a big name, and he's somebody who is supposed to be a national treasure. He probably has a CBE, right?
He's a Sir, isn't he?
Yeah, Sir Cliff Richard.
Yeah.
These things totally matter and impact it, and how high profile your friends are. So even though we can't speculate particularly on the case, we can look at how these things are normally dealt with and think that if they're investigating again, there's a reason for it.
Absolutely. Well, we'll have to keep an eye on how that goes in the future. It's time for another break now. Go make a trip to the smallest room in the house or send that Facebook message, and we'll see you again in a couple of minutes after the break here on Channel 7.